Yahoo. So, you know, some of the mantras that you can do, so can do chants, and I don't necessarily know if I'll have you guys chant them necessarily because they're a little bit more complicated. But you know, the way I was taught was at the Brahma Granthi, you chant the Brahma Gayatri. So the Gayatri is it's an interesting threefold thing. Gayatri is a mantra, of course, and it's like the mantra. So Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Suvaha, like the whole thing with Tat Savitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayate. So that's like the big one that everyone remembers. It's actually to Savitur, which is the sun god. Okay, so it's like, you know, may I be as illuminated, right, as the sun that rises. But Gayatri is also, it's like the famous one, but it's also a vessel, as in that it is the syllabic, like how many syllables there are, as well as the way you chant the mantra. So when you go up or when you go down, so there's a pattern, right, of that syllables. I think it's 25 syllables. And then it's also she's also a goddess too. She's a minor goddess, but she's the goddess. She was a cowherd girl, ended up getting married to Brahma because of other stuff. But so she's like the kind of Gayatri is like of three things, right? So like when we look at, there's the big Gayatri, but we could also, because the Gayatri is a vessel of this particular syllables and the way you chant, you can then input other gods into this same structure and framework. So there are many, many, many different Gayatris. So there is but when most people will say, oh, I'm chanting the Gayatri, right? They're usually talking about the main one that's the Savitur, right? Gayatri. But when we look at, we can put Brahma into this Gayatri. So there's a Brahma Gayatri, then there's a Vishnu Gayatri, and then there's also a Rudra Gayatri. So usually when you know, we look at that, this is part of that Devata yoga, right, where we're connecting to this idea of that particular deity to help unlock the knot, right? And again, it's like about like, and this is why it's like kind of people get a little like, well, am I chanting to these guys? I mean, well, you're chanting to, think about it, it's like you're vibrating in it, yeah, as that you're connecting to that vibration of that aspect of that, you know, fractalization of how the light, you know, deity, the universe, you know, moves into this world, right? So you don't have to think of them, as we said, like facets of a diamond or facets of light, right? So that's why I'm like, well, I don't necessarily, and they're a little bit more complicated. So like, for example, here, I'll pull up the Brahma one is Om Parameshwaraya Vijahe Paratatvaya Dimahi Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Right, so that'd be, and like to chant that like as you're, we won't be chanting that, well, you can chant that in, definitely you can chant it in asana, but that's a lot. Like that's a lot to chant in asana. And so instead, I will probably be the one, like my thought is like, I'll chant, you know, each line as you guys move. You don't have to chant it as you're moving, but when you are exhaling, you'll be hearing that chant. And then, for example, the Vishnu one, let me chant that one for you real quick so you kind of get familiar with that. It's Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayate. And like basically it's just saying like, you know, because Narayana is another name for Vishnu, is saying, oh, this is, you know, the goal of this particular vibration is liberation. I will meditate on the infinite light that dwells within. May all that pervading presence sustain, inspire, and awaken me, is kind of what like that means. And then the Rudra one is fun too. Is Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dimahi Tanno Rudra Prachodayate. And here it's like harkening back to that idea of Purusha, right? Which is consciousness itself, that light that's moving from, you know what I mean? That's like, you know, never changing into the world of Prakriti. And then I meditate on that great being of light, and that, you know, that spiritual height guide me and inspire and awaken me. So, you know, I will, maybe over lunch, I'll put these on the slides with also with the, well, I know that Frankie already gave us the Sahana chant, but maybe I'll put that into the slides. That way it's all there, and that, you know, when it gets uploaded with these, it's all there all in the same time. But that way you guys can have at least this idea, you know what I mean, of what they are. But that is usually the chants that we are doing. And yes, I can send you the chants also, Angelica. So, or Angelic. But yeah, so these are a little bit more complicated, shall we say. But again, this is more moving into Devata yoga. So, you know, I don't want to like freak anybody out either. Does that resonate? Because, you know, in our culture, we're not as, yeah, we're not, I don't think we're as inclusive, right, when it comes to this stuff. But it's also what is there. And, you know, my teacher, Gary, says like, well, because I mean, somebody asked like, well, what if, you know, so if I chant this, you know, like, how powerful is mantra? And some people say, well, even if you don't believe in it, just because you're doing the vibration, something's going to happen. And then my teacher says, well, that is not necessarily true, because if you're not invested in the energy of that vibration, then it's not going to affect you, right? Like, it just won't. So it kind of depends on where our heart is, right, when we're doing it. And so, yeah, like we can also, you know, like think, you know, we can also think about, you know, using, and this is, you know, totally fine, and at least in our lineage, and we talk about like, you can use a different name, you know what I mean, like like that has the same quality that maybe you connect with better, right? Like, you know, we talked about how, oh my God, you know, I freaked out with joy. If we'd use bliss, it'd be different, right? But so, you know, find what connects to you. What is the divine? What is the Ishta Devata in your heart, right? I'm trying to remember my friend. He went through the training with me, and he's an Orthodox Christian, but I'm trying to remember. It's not Greek Orthodox. It's not Russian Orthodox. It's like one of those. It's like something like that. It's not there. It's one of those, and he was quite surprised when he realized that was the Ishta Devata in his heart, because he had only contact apparently with that particular church when he was growing up, and it was a sense of solitude for him to go there. I guess he was bullied a lot when he was little, and he would go there and just sit and feel like, you know what I mean, nourished and safe. And it wasn't until years later, as we were doing this work, he kept seeing these same images in his brain that he remembered, like they were coming back from his, you know, his memory from childhood. And when he did research, it was like, oh my God, it was this like section of some Orthodox Christianity. And he ended up actually almost, well, he started definitely delving in and studying. I think he almost became, he almost took vows to be a priest. But then he fell in love and ended up with a family. But at the same time, like, that was a shock to him, like, oh my God, that's my Ishta Devata. So sometimes the uncovering of that, right, it's like, whoa. And so, you know, he's an incredible yogi, and he leads some like men retreats and things like that. But it's like, when he chants, he doesn't necessarily chant to Brahma or Rudra. He has other you know, chants in Latin or whatever that he uses instead, that have that are more personal to him, if that resonates, right? So that's the beauty of this sort of framework, is that it's about your connection, right, versus forcing yourself to be connected to something that's outside of yourself. I hope, does that help anybody resonate a little bit? Okay. So we'll definitely go through that. Okay. Well, let's see here. Okay, yes, yay. All right, so we have 15 minutes until lunch. Do y'all, we've been doing a lot. I understand this is a lot. And again, like, you know, welcome to, this is stuff for, you know, advanced in yoga therapy, but I hope it's like starting to sort of, enough of these terms have been used throughout the week that they're starting to really crystallize in your mind. But I also know that we're coming to the end, and there's a point where we start getting overwhelmed, right? And we start getting time. Oh, a little background on Rudra. Yes. So maybe we'll do this. Maybe I'll just tell a little bit of a story of Rudra. And then that way we can kind of go to lunch and everybody be a little bit like less anxious about practice. Hopefully you're all excited, but it's a lot. I know. So Rudra is in the Vedas. He's in the Rig Veda as well. He is called the Howler. He's the ruddy one. So you know, a lot of these stories, if you think about the Rig Veda, it's mainly creation stories, okay? And they're not always pretty. So, you know, there's a lot of triggers in the Vedas, shall we say. There's stories of, you know, like one of the ways the world, you know, comes to existence is, you know, this chopping off of limbs and head in order to create this universe. So it's something that's very violent in its way. And again, you think about it, this is like, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 BC, right? So these are, you know, I would say that they're sort of violent times as well, or very stark times. And one of the stories, again, you know, with humanity, one of the fundamental things that's been that you'll see in a lot of older stories in whatever sort of culture is the lessons about incest. Okay, that it is wrong, right? It is wrong, and that that it should not happen. And so the story of Rudra is connected to this because so the story, and again, there's lots of stories, but this particular one involves Brahma. He is, you know, the creator. He's creating. It's through his thoughts that the Prakriti starts to make and creates this material world, right? But he's the sort of thought process, you know, of creation of this, and he starts off with one head, and he creates this, which is essentially his daughter. And sometimes they'll say it's Saraswati, who becomes his wife eventually, and sometimes they just say it's like it's a different, they don't give her a name. But you know, it's this beautiful goddess, right? That's kind of who is basically his daughter. And he grows a head as she walks so that he can keep an eye on her. He's watching her. And he has the fifth head comes up as well, right? So that he can see her in any and everywhere, but it's not in a protective way. It's in that sort of like kind of you don't have good intentions way. And Rudra comes out. He like forms, and he's howling and screaming, and he slices off Brahma's fifth head, the one that's on the top, as a like, this is not okay. You're not allowed to do this, and you need to like check yourself. And so the very beginnings of Rudra is he is this, you know, howler, this one who literally is there to kind of, you know, put the boundary down on what is culturally appropriate and not, like what is acceptable within familial bounds and not. And then of course he ends up, because of course Brahma's head is that of a god, it gets stuck to his hand. And so he has this, sometimes you'll see images of Rudra, he's got a skull stuck to his hand that he ends up using as a bowl. So like Brahma's like skull is now his bowl, and he kind of carries it around as he walks around, you know, as a mendicant. So that's, you know, the beginnings of Rudra. Rudra is also sort of this, he's also unpredictable. And so they always, when they are calling for Rudra, because you think of him like kind of like a storm that will like come and clean the slate, but like cleans the slate in not the way you hoped for me. You know, they could have just like, oh, well, you don't like this, we'll just take it away. So like they're always begging for like his benevolence, you know what I'm saying, in the nicer version. But as this concept of Rudra starts to change over time, he becomes, again, if we think of as Shiva, as, you know, number one is the Nataraja, the dancer who destroys to create, and then as well as the Lord of Yoga, right? And also as the teacher. He also, there's, so different murtis show, you know, kind of what aspect he's in. If he's in that sort of Sukhasana meditative pose, that is like the Shiva, that's the Lord of Yoga. And then there is a version where one leg is down. So he's still seated, so he's in half Padmasana, but his leg is down, and that is him as a teacher. So that is when he's teaching either Parvati or somebody else about yoga. It's like he's a teacher, and he's not in isolation, right? So there's him as the Lord of Yoga in the perfect meditative isolated form, and then there's him actually teaching, which is slightly different. But that gives you a little idea of Rudra. See, there's some great books that have some stories, but I like some of the stories. Honestly, I'm looking at my bookshelf. Some of the stories aren't even like, you can't, like, some of the good ones are not even on the internet. Some of the good ones you just have to like find a teacher who teaches them, you know what I mean, who says them. And then there's, you know, everybody has their own viewpoint. So there's lots of Vishnu stories that have a lot of similarity to the Shiva stories, but they just put Vishnu in, and vice versa. So, and Krishna too, there's so many Krishna stories. Yeah, it's a fascinating tapestry of, you know, of basically the human experience, right? Because the idea is that the gods are there in the Indian mind. The gods are your like great grandparents, like, you know what I mean? Like, so they're not like the Greek gods that kind of tortured you for their own amusement, right? It's that you know, that they're always in your favor, right? They're always on your side, even when you don't think they are. Even in the ferociousness of Kali, she still loves you. You know what I mean? So that's the idea with the Indian gods. I would love a list of all those books. Maybe I'll send you a screenshot. A picture. All right, let's break, even if it's a little bit earlier. Yeah, let's give you guys an extra 5 minutes for lunch. Let's come back in an hour and 5 minutes. Again, eat light. We are going to be, you know, doing that same sort of idea of, you know, chanting. I'll think about, maybe, I don't know, we'll see if we want to do the full chants or not. But we'll do, we're going to do I think today we'll do the Brahma Granthi practice. But we're going to do, instead of the Muladhara, since we already did a Muladhara chakra one, we'll do one for Manipura. And then tomorrow we'll go through and do a Vishnu and then a Rudra practice as well, and then have like questions and all that wonderful stuff to end. But thank you guys for sticking through it, and I'll see you guys in a little over an hour. I'll just pause the recording and I'll stop sharing.
Anna, I just have a quick question.
Yes, Laura.
Are you going to be the one that is heading the lecture next month on Intro to Vinyasa?
Yes, that'll be me.
I'll be there. I already put it on my calendar. I'm crazy. I like went through the calendar and I like blocked off like pranayama week, the Vinyasa day. I'm
nice.
You're not crazy, Laura. You should see my calendar. It literally runs into the end of the year with everything already blocked out all the way up to Thanksgiving. So don't feel weird.
I sold my soul to My Vinyasa Practice.
Is there a t-shirt with that on it?
That'd be hilarious.
Coming 2021.
But hey, at least it was cheap, right? Like, but yes, I think it's just the day. I think the intro to video is just, it's just that one day, as I remember. So you're already getting a lot, obviously, of experience already from here. But yeah, there's sort of ways to structure the class. Think of it as like kind of a framework, and then you can kind of like, you know, you learn how to like change it up a little bit. It can easily work. The methods of any yoga is very much easy. You can apply it to any other sort of lineage that you're, for the most part. I would say probably not with Ashtanga and Shivananda, because those are, they have their set practices, right? There's no changing of that sequence. But like, we'll talk about sequencing, dynamic movement, how we use breath. Yes, on Friday. It's a Friday. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I was like, I hope it's not 3 days, because that'd be a lot for y'all. But like, like, whoa. So we already have the subtle bodies. But yeah, so it'll be a fun little thing to do, and I'll make sure I'll have slides for that as well, and fun little practices to do. Yeah. Is Jivamukti similar? No, not. I mean, no, not really. They are. The similarities that they don't take the spirituality out of it. You know what I mean? That's definitely some of the similarity of that. But we have some. We have a lot of. We have some sequencing principles that we kind of use and apply, and then learn how to break as well. So it's never. Again, it's always, it depends, right? It's never a set thing. All right, so let's find a space on our mat. So we're going to start, obviously, because we're going to do that focus Dharana thing, and we're going to do our little chakra GPS. And so get comfy, please, and find a comfortable seat. We will be doing movement, but we're going to start here in our seated position. And again, you can always, you know, change it up. The only reason I'm starting sitting is that, you know, we had our break. So if we hadn't had a break, I would probably start with a little bit more movement to get you to be comfortable to be seated. But, you know, since you had a break, you're probably digesting. I don't want to jump into movement right away necessarily, because you might still be settling, right? Your digestive system might be gurgling. So we're just going to start in our seated position. So when you have a moment.
Anna, will you also note during the practice when maybe people that are menstruating aren't supposed to be doing a movement or something? Because I know that some of them, you're not supposed to do certain bends or twists or, you know.
Yes.
Just so I have cognitive thinking while you're flowing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for reminding me, Frankie. So
yeah,
for the most part, this is a very simple, easy practice. We are coming into a seated twist, but again, for menstruation, you just don't go so deep. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just sort of you don't need to be like, oh, we're not doing any suspension. That's usually, and Mula Bandha is usually when it's like, doesn't feel so good. You know what I mean? When we're doing, when we have that sort of force of apana going through us. But for this practice, as long as you're feeling in a comfortable range, you should be totally fine. And we're not doing any long extended inversions, obviously, either. Like, yeah, we're not doing that. So let's come to a comfortable seat. Close the eyes. Start to find your breath. Inhale and exhale. And start bringing your awareness inside. Noticing the structure and your energy, stula sharira, right? How we're feeling in our body. I think I'm gonna have to put my cat up. So just keep focusing and breathing. And then we're going to start to chant. So I just want you to listen. So I'll tell you what the chant means first. That way it's not, doesn't create any anxiety for anybody. So this is again the Brahma Gayatri, one of them. And it says, I know that highest, I know that I connect to, I know that highest light, the greatest power, and I meditate on that highest principle. May that spirit force guide me and inspire and awaken me. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe Paratatvaya Dimahi Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe Paratatvaya Dimahi Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe Paratatvaya Dimahi Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Take a moment, allowing that vibration of the chant to just connect, the meaning of that to connect. That I know that highest light, that greatest power. I meditate on that highest principle, and that highest principle, that spirit, that force will guide, inspire, and awaken me. And allow your attention to coalesce at that third eye, the Ajna chakra, that point above your nose and between your eyebrows. I'm going to allow that point to give you a little feedback. Can you find some sensation or awareness here of that chakra? And then allow your attention to move down to the pit of the throat, to Vishuddhi. Feel free to take a little swallow if need be, to connect to that area and space where it resides. And again, see if you can find a little sensation or feedback or a little vibration here. And then moving down to that sternum, xiphoid process, the fourth chakra, anahata. Bringing our attention there and seeing if we can connect to that area, seeing if there's any feedback or sensation or awareness, vibration. And then moving even further down to the navel, Manipura chakra. Again, seeing if you can find some sensation or awareness, some feedback from that spot, that point. And then allowing it to move about 2 inches below that navel to Svadhisthana. Seeing if you can connect that space. You find sensation or feedback there. And then moving further down to the very base of the pelvis, Muladhara, root. very center point at the base of the pelvis. See if we can find some feedback or sensation. And then allowing your attention to rise back up, but this time in the back of the body to that center spot of the sacrum, the very center of that sacrum. Svadhisthana. And connecting to that spot and area, seeing if there's sensation here. And then further up towards that lower lumbar. Somewhere there that's across from the navel. And then again, moving further up the spine to that mid-thoracic. Somewhere between the shoulder blades, across from that sternum, xiphoid process, this idea of anahata. And then further up to the base of the neck, across from the pit of the throat, Vishuddhi. And if you can find some sensation or connection from that point. And then moving further up to the very top of the cervical spine, the base of the skull, the atlas axis, Ajna chakra, across from the third eye. Notice if you can find some sensation there, some awareness. And then moving up even further, up to the crown. And then very gently starting to move down through that midline, that central channel, coming down back into Ajna chakra now, the middle of the skull, the midbrain. And then see if you can find that loop, allowing that attention from the midbrain to move back towards the base of the skull and then forward to the third eye. Can we find that connection back and forth? From back of skull, midbrain to third eye. And then finding that circuit, that loop. So moving from that base of the skull up through and around the crown to moves down forward to the front to the third eye and then back in to the center of the skull. Can you find that connection, that circuit? And then moving from that connection to that midbrain of Ajna chakra, let's move it further down to the very center of the throat. That space that's right behind the pit of the throat, but in front of the base of the cervical spine, the neck. Can we find that connection through from the back to the front? In Vishuddhi chakra. And then see if we can find that loop as we move to the base of the neck, the cervical spine, can we travel up to the base of the skull, and from there to the crown of the head, and then forward to the third eye in the front of the body, and then down to the pit of the throat, and then back through the midline. Can you find that loop, that circle? And then with your awareness again, at the very center of that throat, the Vishuddhi, and you allow your attention to move down that central channel, so it's in that middle of the thoracic cavity, behind the sternum, but in front of that space in the thoracic spine, between the shoulder blades. Can you find that space of Anahata chakra, heart? And can you pull it through and back and forth? Can you connect to that space between the shoulder blades and then bring it back through to the sternum? You find that connection. And then drawing it back to that space between the shoulder blades, can you start to move it up to the base of the cervical spine, the neck, and then up to the base of the skull, and then across the crown to the third eye, and then down again to the pit of the throat, and then moving down to that sternum xiphoid process. Can you find that circuit, that loop? And then with your attention once more, that very central channel, that space of Anahata that's behind the sternum and in front of the thoracic, can you move your awareness down to your abdominals? It's right behind the navel, but in front of that lumbar curve. And can you connect the back to the front to the back? Can you find that connection within that chakra of Manipura? And then once again, drawing it back into the back body, that connection of Manipura there at the lumbar. Can we move it up to Anahata between the shoulder blades and the thoracic, and then further up to the base of the neck for Ajna, and the base of the skull, Atlas axis for Ajna, and then across the crown back to the third eye for Ajna, down to the pit of the throat of Vishuddhi, down into the sternum, xiphoid process for Anahata, and then all the way down to the navel. Can you find that loop, that circuit? And then again, connecting to that central channel, that space there in the middle of the abdominals. Move it even further down to the center of the pelvis. That space that's behind that 2-inch space below the navel, but also in front of the sacrum. Svadhisthana. And can you connect from that back, from that center sacrum through center to that space 2 inches below the navel? Connecting front to back and back to front. And then again, moving from that space, the center of the sacrum, moving up to the base of the lumbar for Manipura, then further up between the shoulder blades for Anahata, then the base of the neck, Vishuddhi, the base of the skull, Ajna across the crown, Sahasrara, to the Ajna chakra of the third eye in the front, the pit of the throat for Vishuddhi, the sternum xiphoid process for Anahata, then further down the navel for Manipura, and then 2 inches below that for Svadhisthana. Can you find that circuit, that loop? And then bringing your attention from that center of the pelvis, Svadhisthana, just straight down to Muladhara, the root, the base, the bottom of that central channel, the Sushumna. And then slowly let your attention arise through that central channel and see, can you find all of those loops, those circuits lighting up as you gently move up from that full connection of Muladhara all the way up the back, down the front, to then Svadhisthana, all the way up and down the back and the front. And keep going. Letting all of these loops aware, feel them lighting up. And then rest your attention in that midbrain. Resting here in that central channel. And then allow your awareness to come to the top, the Sahasrara, the crown. Feel that skull start to become illuminated, almost translucent. As we rest our awareness at this gateway, the Sahasrara, the thousand-spoked wheel, that thousand-petaled wheel. As you inhale, draw your attention down from the crown just into that sixth chakra, the midbrain, that central channel. Exhale back from six to the crown. As you inhale again, draw your awareness into that sixth chakra, that midbrain from the crown. And then slowly, as you exhale back up to the crown, start to imagine or feel that you are starting to open this central channel from the crown to the sixth to Ajna. On your next inhale, draw from the crown down to the fifth chakra, Vishuddhi, that center point of the throat. As you exhale, let it travel back to the crown. As you inhale, draw your awareness, your attention back into Vishuddhi, center of the throat. And as you exhale, move your awareness back to the crown. One more time this way, drawing that awareness as you inhale into that fifth chakra. And as you exhale, bringing your awareness back up to that crown, allowing this chakra to open a little bit more. And then as you inhale, start to draw that attention, that awareness down into the heart, Anahata chakra, center of the thoracic cavity. And as you exhale, let it move back up to the crown. Inhaling, draw it down to that center of the thoracic, Anahata, the fourth chakra. And as you exhale, let it move back up to the crown. One more time as you inhale, draw from the crown all the way down into Anahata. And exhaling slowly back up to the crown of the head. And again, inhaling crown, this time moving all the way down the central channel to the third chakra, Manipura, the abdomen behind the navel. As you exhale, let it move upward again into the crown. As you inhale, draw it down into the third chakra, Manipura. As you exhale, let it move all the way back up to the crown. One more time. Crown to third chakra. And as you exhale, third chakra to crown. And now as you inhale, draw that awareness from the crown all the way down to Svadhisthana, the center of the pelvis, that space in front of the sacrum, behind that spot that's 2 inches below the navel. And as you exhale, let it rise back up all the way through that central channel to the crown. Inhaling, drawing it all the way back down, Svadhisthana. And exhaling all the way back up to the crown. One more time. Exhaling back to the crown. This time as you inhale, draw your awareness, your attention from that crown, Sahasrara, all the way down that central channel, that Sushumna, until you reach the Muladhara, the base, the root. And as you exhale, let it come all the way back up to the crown. Inhaling all the way down, Muladhara. Exhaling all the way back to the crown. Last time this way, inhaling. And exhaling, crown. This time we're going to move into the Manipura. So as you inhale, bring your awareness, your attention to that third chakra in that central channel behind the navel, in front of the lumbar. And then pause here, hold the breath in. And then as you exhale, move it back to the crown. I'm going to start the chant. I'm going to put Om in front of each line. So as you inhale, crown to third. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale to crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling to Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhaling crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Last time. Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale your awareness all the way back down to the Manipura chakra, that third chakra, that space that is between the navel and that lumbar, Manipura at the very center channel. And hold your attention here as you just breathe normally. Resting your awareness here in the space of this chakra. Notice as your attention rests, we can contemplate and have dharana on the element that is here, fire. the form and the quality of fire, this Mahabhuta. Sense the heat that emanates from this space, this chakra, Manipura, that is at our navel. See the light as a result of that fire. And become one with that heat and that light. This is your connection to Agni. And then focus on that Tan mantra of sight, of rupa, of form, what we can see. Think about the gift of sight. And the relationship of sight and fire. And contemplate about those sights that are beautiful. As you hold your attention on this idea of sight, fire, the illuminating quality of this element, of this gift, notice what emerges. And then focus on the karmendriya of locomotion. Consider the relationships between fire and sight and locomotion. Moving towards the heat of fire, away from danger. Moving towards sight, where things are illuminated, where we can see. And consider what you walk towards as well as what you walk away from. And think beyond the gross physical action of locomotion, but more into that energetic, emotional, and mental insights that arise through that action. And then come back to that central channel breathing. Inhaling, we're here at Manipura. pausing. And as you exhale, moving your attention back to the crown. Inhaling Manipura all the way down that central channel. Pausing, we rest our attention there. And then exhaling back to crown. Once again, I'll chant. Inhaling crown to third chakra. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Pause and hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling third. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold here. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Last one. Inhale Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold it here. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Exhale to the crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale all the way back down to Manipura. As you keep your attention here, we'll start to work with our intention, our sankalpa. So for your thoughts, start to recognize your ideas about the things you think you need, as well as the stories you tell yourself. What are the patterns, the issues, the current and or long-term that surround these desires? Why you want these things? What you think you will get if you have these things? Notice what arises. And then feelings, the emotions around these objects of desire. And acknowledge what you already have. What can you let go of and what is not serving you? And where you want to go, where you are going. Notice what arises. And then the actions. Your behavior around these desires. Specifically any dysfunctional behavior around these desires. And ask yourself, what are you willing to do to support the changes you want in your life? State mentally what you are willing to do, whether that be to stop or to start something in order to transform. On your next exhale, allow your attention to rest, coming back up into the Ajna chakra. And formulate your sankalpa here from what arisen in that Manipura of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Connect to this heartfelt vow. And then slowly allow the eyes to start to open just very, very softly. Keep your attention further back, awareness further back, and still in that midbrain, even as you start to look out. And let's make our way very slowly and carefully down onto our back, all the way down. Coming into Shavasana, feel free if you need to place a rolled blanket underneath the knees, but allow nothing to be underneath the head and neck. So take a moment noticing the body, the structure. We were sitting for a bit. So feel how everything starts to soften and relax down with gravity. Keep that alert and present awareness, bringing your attention now slowly to the tip of the nose for the moment. And start to notice the breath, the prana that's moving in and out through those nostrils. And allow the inhalations and exhalations to get longer and deeper. Moving into 4 to 6 counts. And to keep our focus, our mental awareness present, do a little bit of a cross crawl. So on your next inhale, flex just the left ankle and relax it as you exhale. Flex the right ankle. And as you exhale, relax it. Again, flex the left ankle and then relax. Then flex the right ankle and relax. And now flex both ankles and exhale, relax. Once more, as you inhale, gently flex both ankles and then relax. Adding the arms. As you inhale, flex the left ankle, raise the right arm overhead, and pause just 2 counts, 2 beats, and then exhale, release that arm and release the ankle. Other side, flex the right ankle, left arm rises up, and pause for 2 beats here before exhaling and releasing down. Again, inhale, flex left ankle, raise the right arm up and over, pause, and exhale, release. Inhaling, flexing right ankle, raise the left arm, and pause for a beat or 2, and then exhale, release. This time, let's inhale both arms, flex both ankles, Pause at the top, 2 beats. And then exhale when you're ready, release. One more time. Inhaling both arms, flexing both ankles. Full inhalation. Pause at the top here, holding, retention, just 2 beats. And then exhale, release. Take a moment and just notice. Notice the mind. Good. Let's bring the feet to the floor, bending the knees. Arms are resting down by your sides. Take a moment here in constructive rest. Good. Keeping the hips on the floor for the moment. As you inhale, we're going to take the arms up, but as we do this, let's allow that right arm to stay reaching towards the ceiling as the left arm comes all the way up and over behind the head. Good. And then as you exhale, let's start to bring that left arm back up and over until it meets the right, and then both all the way come down, all in conjunction with that breath. Let's try the other side as you inhale. Taking the arms up, this time left stays reaching towards the ceiling, right arm reaches back behind to the floor. And as you exhale, slowly bring that right arm back, let it meet the left and fold it all the way down. Again, inhaling, let's take both arms up, left stays reaching, right arm behind. Exhaling all the way down. Both arms in conjunction. Good. And then other side. Inhaling. Let's do that. Left now. Right. Good. It's reaching left overhead. Perfect. And then all the way down on the exhale. Perfect. And now finally, keeping the hips down, let's take both arms up and over. And then both arms back down. And again, both arms up and over. And both arms back down. Good. So we're going to use this arm combination. So we'll do very similar to what we just did when one arm stays reaching to the ceiling, the other one reaches back, and then as you exhale, I'll be chanting the chant. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side, and as you exhale, I'll chant the chant. And then you'll do both arms. So we'll do right, left, and then both, if that makes sense. But we're adding the hips to this now. So we'll be doing this in a bridge posture. So let's just do one round without any chant, so you can get used to it. As you inhale, start to lift the hips, take both arms up, right arm stays, left arm reaches all the way up and overhead. And as you exhale, let's bring that arm back, up and down, and then both arms with that spine, the hips. Good. Opposite one, inhaling up, this time left arm stays, right arm reaches all the way back, hips are up. Exhaling slowly, hands come back all the way down, hands with the hips and spine. Inhale now, both arms come all the way up and over, lift those hips. And exhale all the way down. Good, all right, so now let's try it with our chant. So as we inhale, starting with those hips, lift them up, both arms up and over. Let's take that right arm, good. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe, right, good. Now exhaling, we'll chant. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe. Inhale to the opposite, inhaling up, this time that right arm, good. And then as we exhale, chanting. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Good. Both arms reaching up, hips up. Exhaling, we chant. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Good. And again, inhaling. One arm up and back. Good. And exhaling, chanting. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe. Inhaling the opposite. Exhaling down. Om Paratatvaya Dhimahi. Both arms, hips up. Exhaling. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Good. One more round this way. Inhaling. Alternate. Exhaling, chant. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe. Inhale the opposite. And exhaling. Om Varatatvaya Dhimahi. Inhaling, both arms lift the hips. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Take a moment here, noticing the body. Again, this is a more complicated chant, so if you still want to be listening, of course, to this vibration, feel free, but also feel free just to chant Om on the way down on the exhales as well, just very silent, like a quieter Om, to allow for that vibration still to be connecting to your body. And let's slowly roll over to one side. And we'll come up to our tall kneeling. Feel free to pad those knees and shins. Good. So our dynamic Vajrasana, we're going to be doing alternate arms again, and then both. So as you inhale, let's take both arms up. As you exhale, pull the belly and fold forward, sweep the left arm behind you, reach forward with the right all the way down. Forehead towards the floor or block. And then as you inhale, rise back up, sweep that opposite arm up to meet. Other side, as you exhale, reach forward with the left as the right arm sweeps behind and to the side, forehead towards the floor. And then as you inhale, that right arm comes out to the side and up and meets the left at the top. Good, now both arms come back as you fold forward. Tuck the hands behind the sacrum. Inhaling, both arms sweep out and up. Good. And again, as you exhale, sweep that left, right arm forward. Come all the way down. Good. Inhaling all the way back up. Other side, left forward, right sweeps. Inhale all the way up. Sweep that arm up to meet. And then both arms, again, folding forward. They reach behind, tops of the hands to the sacrum, forehead to the floor. And then inhale all the way up. Adding the chant. Exhale, sweep the left, reach that right arm. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe. Inhale all the way up. Opposite side. Om Parasatvaya Dhimahi. Inhale up. Both arms down. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling all the way up, sweep both arms. Again, alternate. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe. Inhale up. Opposite side. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Inhale up. Exhale both. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale all the way up, lift. Exhale, just release the arms. A moment, notice. Nice. Let's make our way onto our belly. So allow both hands, the tops of the hands to be on your sacrum. And start with the right cheek on the floor. So we're going to be moving into a alternate arm and leg Shalabhasana. So as you inhale, we'll lift the head and chest, reach the left arm forward as you reach the right leg back. Head now center. And then as you exhale, sweep that left arm and turn the cheek to the left now to come down, and the right foot to come down as well. Good. Inhale, right arm now, left leg reaches. And exhale, release it down. Good. And again, inhale, left leg, left arm, right leg. Exhale, left cheek. And then inhale, right arm, left leg. And as you exhale, bring it down, right cheek. Good. Keep going, just a few more times. Now we'll do 3 more rounds here. Try to make sure that the leg lifts maybe only a couple inches so that there is more height for the chest and the arm to lift up. Good. And you've done both sides now evenly. Take a moment, bring the hands underneath the forehead. And then take your time, no rush. And then just take a moment. Good. And then let's come to hands and knees. Feel free to pad the knees and shins. Working again in our Chakravakasana. So the tabletop to child's pose. As you inhale, find the length through the spine, out through the crown of the head, reaching back through the tailbone. And as you exhale, tuck the chin slightly, elbows come down, chest to thighs, and hips back towards heels. Forehead to floor if possible. Inhale, flatten the upper back as you gently come back to tabletop. Exhaling all the way back. Inhale, coming up. Exhale back. Inhale, coming back. Good. Last time, exhale back. Inhale back. This time as you exhale, let's move into downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Good. Inhale, bring the knees back down. Exhale back into child's pose. Good. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, child's pose. Good. One more round this way. Next time, you inhale, make your way back into tabletop. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana and stay in down dog for just a few breaths here. With every exhale, notice that connection, drawing the navel back to feel the engagement from the navel all the way down through your root. Good. Yogi's choice, you can either step the feet forward or you can walk the hands back, moving into Uttanasana. And connect to those feet, feel the energy drawing up. And then slowly, let's make our way to standing. Good. Take a moment, find your mountain pose, Tadasana. So remember that Brahman Granti, that one of desire, resides and sort of associated with this lower three chakras. So Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Manipura. We're going to work a little bit more. We've been working somewhat mostly in our Muladhara area. However, we're going to move a little bit deeper into that Manipura. So let's take our stance a little bit wider. The feet 3 to 4 feet apart, depending on your leg length. And the feet can be either, parallel-ish to the mat or slightly pigeon toes, whatever is actually best for your knees and your structure. And we will be chanting, of course, in a moment. But first we're going to check out the movement. So as you inhale, take the arms out to the side. And as you exhale, pull the belly in and fold forward, but take the right hand down in front of the face as the left hand comes up. You can even look up. So here we are in our Pavriti Prasarita Padasana. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, opposite arm comes down. Inhaling, coming up. And this time, exhale, fold forward. But inhaling all the way up. And then exhale, just release the arms for a moment. So that is the pattern. Your right hand down, then left hand down, then both. And again, with every exhale, we'll be chanting one of the lines of the mantra. Again, you can just chant Om at home if you'd like. Or just listen to the Brahma Gayatri. So inhale, take the arms out. Exhale, right arm down. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Inhale up. Left. Om Paratarvaya Vidmahi. Inhaling up. Exhale forward. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale up. Exhale right. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Inhale up. Exhale left. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Inhaling up. And center. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling up. Last round. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Inhale. Left. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Inhaling up. And center. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Stay here and breathe. Feel the connection all the way from the soles of the feet up to the legs. into the pelvis and down the spine. Slowly on your next inhale, come up. And exhale, release the arms, bring the feet back. Tadasana. Slowly make our way back down to hands and knees. Let's take a few rounds of Chakravakasana, so something that is more stabilizing without a twist. Just a very gentle movement. Recalibrate that low back, pelvis and sacrum. And then once again, make your way into a seated position. So feel free to use a block, blanket. Be finding a seated twist here, just in Sukhasana. As you inhale, find that length in the spine. And as you exhale, slowly start to twist to the left, bringing the right hand to the thigh or knee and the left hand behind you. Inhale, just halfway releasing, and then exhale, deepen. Inhale again, halfway releasing, exhaling, deepening. One more time this way, and exhaling, deepening. Inhale all the way back to center, neutral. And now as you exhale, twist the opposite direction. So the left hand comes to the thigh, good, or knee. Inhale, halfway releasing. Exhale, twisting a little deeper. Again, halfway releasing. And twisting a little deeper. Last one. And twist a little deeper. Inhaling back to center, releasing that twist. Good. Taking a moment here, we're going to do that same pattern where we exhale and then we'll come up a little halfway and then go deeper as we exhale. Inhale halfway back. But this time we'll add the mantra again to it. So as you inhale, find that nice length. As you exhale, no chanting, just gently go all the way, right hand to that left knee. Starting with the mantra on the next exhale. Inhale halfway. And exhale deeper. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe. Halfway back as you inhale. And exhale more into the twist. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Inhaling halfway. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale all the way to center. Good, and this time exhaling the opposite direction. So slowly moving now towards the right, left hand. Good, to the thigh. Inhale halfway. And the mantra. Om Parameshvaraya Vidmahe. Halfway as you inhale. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Inhale half. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale all the way to center. You're going to take a moment here when you're ready. You're back to center, and then slowly start to fold forward. Release and stretch. That spine forward and down. You can change the cross of the legs. Good. And then we'll make our way back to sitting. If there's any other small little movement that you feel you need to do, whether that be maybe seated windshield wiper legs, or just to flex a bit, or even to walk the hands back a little bit. Find just a very gentle movement here for homeostasis before we come back to sitting. And then when you're ready, let's find your meditative seat. Doesn't have to be Sukhasana. It can be supported Vajrasana or Virasana. It can be on a chair as long as it's not like a lazy boy where you're going to fall asleep. Any sort of supported. Good. And then close the eyes. And again, start to bring your attention back inside, noticing the breath moving and flowing. That wave in and out. And again, we'll find that GPS chakra tracking. So gently bring your attention once more to Ajna chakra, the third eye. That brow point, allowing your attention to rest there. Until you can find some sensation or feedback. And then move it down to the pit of the throat. Maybe take a swallow. Find that one. And then down further to the sternum xiphoid process, Anahata chakra. And then further down to Manipura. And then 2 inches below Manipura, so Svadhisthana. Seeing if you can find feedback or connection there. And then even further down to the very base of the spine, the very bottom of the pelvis, somewhere in between the sit bones, pubic bone and tailbone, this root, Muladhara. And then bringing the awareness back up to the back of the body, Svadhisthana, the center, the sacrum. And then if you can find that sensation, the connection there, start to move it up to the lower lumbar, directly across from where the navel would be. And then moving it even further up to between the shoulder blades and that mid-thoracic, that space behind the heart, Anahata chakra. And then further up to the base of the cervical spine, across from the pit of the throat for Vishuddhi. And then further up, when you're ready, to that base of the skull, the atlas axis, across from where the third eye would be, the ajna. And then making your way to the crown, very top of that skull, fontanelle, Sahasrara. And from there, allowing your awareness to drop into that central channel, moving into that space in the very center of the skull, the midbrain for Ajna Chakra. And again, moving further down to that space in the middle of the throat, between the pit of the throat and the base of the cervical spine. And then moving further down to the center of that thoracic cavity behind the sternum, but in front of that space between the shoulder blades, the mid-thoracic. And then drawing even further down, that abdomen, or behind the space between where the navel is and the beginning of that lower lumbar curve, or Manipura. And then see if you can bring it even further down to the very center, in the middle of that pelvis, in front of that center point of the sacrum, and behind that spot that's 2 inches below the navel, for Svadhisthana. And then finally Muladhara, very root, the very base. Very base of that central channel even. And then let's bring your attention and your awareness all the way back up that central channel, back to the crown. And take a moment here, see if you can connect and feel the entirety of that central channel becoming illuminated, the prana moving through it. And then once again, be chanting. So again, the inhale, we will bring all our attention all the way back down through that central channel to Manipura. And we'll pause, holding the breath in for a few beats as we chant, and then exhaling all the way back up to the crown. So again, I'll be chanting, just follow in your mind, working with that 1-1-1-0 ratio of the Brahma Gayatri. So inhaling crown to Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold here. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhale Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Exhaling crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling third. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold there at Manipura, the third. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Exhaling crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling third. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Last time. Inhale Manipura. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe. Hold. Om Paratarvaya Dhimahi. Exhale crown. Om Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Inhaling, bringing your attention once more all the way down to that third chakra, Manipura. And allowing your attention to rest there. And as you do, sense that energy current of desire, kama. Think about how you feel. You feel proud and maybe worthy if you have something, some sort of object that you desire. And then recognize the reality that these objects have never been a source of your self-worth, of your self-esteem, fulfillment. That your self-worth is unrelated to anything you desire to possess. Again, your self-worth, your self-esteem, your fulfillment is unrelated to anything you desire to possess. Any of these things in this Nama Rupa world. And as you start to recognize this, reflect on how this energy current of desire is by its very nature self-perpetuating. And reflect on how it has influenced you in your life. And if you are willing, commit to working to gain the control over this energy, this self-perpetuating energy, so that these desires no longer dominate your awareness. This is your tapas. And allow this reflection to coalesce into a point in that central channel at the level of your Manipura. Holding all of it, not just your commitment, but the recognition of your self-worth is not tied into it, and feelings that are attached to all of that. Let it coalesce into this point here at the Manipura. And then visualize that point rising up from that Manipura central channel, right, that level, all the way up, moving past the fourth, the fifth, and coming here into the sixth, the midbrain, the Ajna chakra. And then see it exiting outward from that third eye. See it floating at the level of your third eye. And feel this point start to expand outward and upward. You're offering this reflection back to the universe and the powers that gave birth to them. Shakti, Prakriti itself. And ask that those powers purify and elevate your desires to what is in your highest good, your highest well-being. And feel the gratitude for these gifts, this gift of life, of embodiment, and the potential to elevate these desires so that they can guide you forward. They can guide you in this endeavor of embodiment. And then allow those purified potentials to slowly condense back into that point, but this time above your crown. And as it condenses and coalesces, and see it start to move down and enter at the crown. And then slowly descend down into that central channel, returning back to that Manipura chakra, third chakra. Here now at its highest potential. Om Paramashvaraya Vidmahe Paratadvaya Dhimahi Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe Paratadvaya Dhimahi Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. Om Parameshwaraya Vidmahe Paratatvaya Dhimahi Tanno Brahma Prachodayate. I know that highest light, the greatest power. I meditate on that highest principle, that spirit, that force may guide, inspire, and awaken me. Slowly start to make your way back into this space, into this room. Start to allow the eyes to open just slightly and make your way onto your back or Shavasana. Feel free if you need to do gentle movements, Apanasana, happy baby, windshield wiper knees, just something for homeostasis. slowly, ever so gently, start to bring your attention back to your breath, your body, back into this space. Notice sensations along the periphery, your fingers and toes, and start to wiggle them, move them, just enliven them a little bit. On your next inhale, bring the arms up and over the head, reaching fingertips through toe tips. Take a nice long inhalation. And as you exhale, exhale through the mouth. One at a time, bring the feet back to the floor. And the knees into the chest, and give yourself a little squeeze, gentle hug. And slowly roll to one side, releasing the arms, and make your way back up to sitting. Take a moment just noticing the body, noticing the energy, the prana moving through, and also noticing the mind, where it is at this moment. And bringing the hands to Anjali Mudra. Take a moment to allow your thinking mind to bow to the compassion that's within that heart. Atma Hridaye Hridayam Mai Aham Amrite Amritam Anandam. That my life force be linked to my heart. That my heart be linked to the truth within me. That this truth be linked to the eternal which is unending bliss. Namaste. Thank you all so very much for participating today. I know these practices are a little bit different, a little bit more on that meditative aspect, but I thought, why not? We're at the end of the week, let's do it. So we did, again, this is the Brahma Granthi practice. We focused mainly on that Manipura, but connected, of course, from 1 to 3, but really worked that Manipura chakra, that idea of desire. And that possession. So anyway, I hope that worked for you a little bit. I, of course, look forward to questions, comments, anything at all that you want to share. We don't have that much time, but we can always, of course, check in tomorrow as well when we start. And tomorrow will be the final day. So we'll try to do 2 practices tomorrow. We'll try to do one in the morning. And then for the Vishnu Granthi, and then do another one in the afternoon for the Rudra Granthi. But we'll have some space and time also if we have, needs to like re-go over anything or any sort of questions that come up from all the information that was, of course, sort of like fire hosed at you. So with that.
Let me get on this one camera.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Hey, so my question is, how, I don't know if you've had experience or talked to someone like as a Christian, right? So some of the chanting, right, is distracting for me, but I remember you mentioning that. But like as a Christian, how do you, just you in general, or someone that teaches yoga, how do you, because there's this big thing in Christianity where like yoga, like you should not be doing yoga as a Christian, right? And so, but I am going to be doing yoga as a Christian. But how do you, like, even if you go to class or like a class you teach, how do you get people to be more comfortable, I guess maybe is the word, in their space when they're doing yoga.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a good
so
question.
that so like for me, like it would be like, so that you're not really going away from what you are teaching, what you normally teach, and then they're not running away from. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. That is a very valid and good question. I mean, I have had friends who are very, very devout Catholics, and then they just use either Latin when they chant, or they use hymns, right? I had someone who's also very, very Orthodox Jew, and she used Hebrew from the Torah, right?
Okay.
To connect. So it kind of depends on, I guess, what form of Christianity, right? That there's some have more, more of like a chanting tone than others, correct? My Catholic friends always think, oh yeah, Ganesh is like a saint. You know what I mean? Like one of the saints, like, it's just
right.
It's like how they, it kind of just depends on, I would say, and you don't have to use Sanskrit. You can use English, of course. And you can say, I'm connecting to the highest potential that God has for me, right? You know what I mean? Things like that, kind of rewording things. One of my friends, used to own a studio in Lake Charles back in before Katrina in the 90s, and like late 90s, early 2000s, and she would use, instead of Om, she would have people chant home. I've come home, right? Because it has the same intonation. Even Amen, Om, Shalom, all of that has the very same vibrational qualities. So, I would say, and I think there was even an actress at some point. She was in the old show Northern Exposure. She ended up she became I don't know, was born again Christian, but she practiced yoga, and she did these, I think you can find them on YouTube, videos where she like uses Psalms and she renames some of the postures, like the staff of Moses pose and the ark instead of boat, you know what I mean? And things like that. So that you can kind of reframe things again. It's just, I would say it just depends on their comfort level. Again, one of my other friends who's still in Lafayette, she just calls it stretching. You know what I mean? So stretch, right? Like, because the point is, it's like the minute you start moving and breathing, and you start to and instead of calling meditation, they call it contemplation, right? Because there's a whole bunch of Christians that contemplate. There's a whole avenue of that. So, it's just sometimes finding the language that they're comfortable with, right? And then, really, anytime you're moving and breathing and focusing inward a bit, contemplating, you start shifting, you start changing. You know what I mean? The all of that is still going to happen there. You don't need to do Sanskrit. You know what I mean, to do it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I just
help answer a little bit.
Yeah. No, actually, that was really good. I just finished a 200-hour course about 2 weeks ago. So now I'm in the 300-hour. But I didn't start. Yeah. So I didn't start doing yoga until I did the 200-hour course. So I'm not familiar with yoga really at all. Like, took no yoga classes until the 200-hour class.
No way.
But I already knew what I was going to be doing for my own practice and stuff, and how I wanted it to come across. But so it still goes back to something Michelle says, which is you make yoga your own, right? Yes. And so that makes sense to me. And some of the things you just said, like, I always end out, it's so funny because I'm also a fitness trainer, and that's how I incorporate my yoga. And I do like Facebook Live workouts, and at like the last 5 minutes, we're always doing something with yoga. If it's a chair, but on Saturdays, like I do an hour one, and I always end with amen. So that makes more sense to me. I just have to get like the chanting part, but what you said makes sense to me also as far as the chanting. And it doesn't have to be Sanskrit, because that's probably almost like me learning Spanish all over, which was not good. But then making it like saying things are like the Psalms and all those other things. So that makes a lot of sense, and that kind of eases my own thinking about it.
And maybe some anxiety too, right? Like, how do I
it really does
this, right, within myself as well.
Right, exactly. So that the way you explained it was perfect. So because I was kind of like, well, I'm really uncomfortable listening to this chanting, but you saying that has just like completely eased. I didn't even think about, but you can bring your own to the mat, right? And I didn't think that at all. And I do say that even in my yoga sessions, I say, like, I stepped away because I do 30-minute yoga. I stepped away and I did a 30-minute yoga session. And I was saying, I said, so we're going to meditate, but you can meditate on whatever you want to meditate on, right? Which is like, you meditate on the word of God and you can do all these other things. And so, but that helps me so much. I mean, I was kind of doing that, but like attending someone else's class, since it's all new to me and no one's told me anything else. So I'm just always like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable with this. But
thank you for speaking up and asking the question, because that's, you know what I mean?
That's helped a lot.
Thank you. You're welcome. Oh,
Zibby, before we go, this is Frankie.
Hey, Frankie.
I will tell you, I have a girlfriend who's got 5,000 hours under her belt. She's a CF survivor in her 30s in Houston. So she has gone through almost every avenue of Dharma. And there are people out there who are specifically trained in Christian yoga. So there are resources out there that, and she has been dealing with that recently because in her change in relationship over the past year, she got a divorce and met a guy who truly nourishes just her, but he is a very devout Christian. So she felt a little guilty almost practicing her yoga the way that she was taught with him in presence. So she has become more in tune with that language. So it's, mind you, she has 5,000 hours under her belt. You just did 200. So the fact that you're cognizant of this and you're aware of this and that language will let you communicate with that community in a way that somebody, like, I grew up Methodist and I was baptized Episcopalian, and I was almost forced to be like nose to the grindstone with that stuff. And so it created an aversion for me very young. And so yoga is doing the opposite for me, because it's letting me realize the realm of spirituality in a wholesome sense and being comfortable with what may have been taught to me in tradition with my Christian background. So with my family and everything. So it's wonderful that you're already there, because it's going to come so naturally for you, and you're going to be able to be that medium between those two different genres of people. And I don't think you're going to have to worry about Sanskrit at all until you're.
Yeah, and it's funny because I didn't even know there was a whole entire like Christian yoga, right? Until I did the 200 hour, then people were asking questions, and I just kind of started doing my own research, and and then they do have they have the now I always get the words wrong. So they have things that relate to Christianity, and they have scripture that goes with it, like the niyamas and the niyamas, right? And so they have that, and I was like, oh, I didn't even really realize. And so just being comfortable like that, and there are a lot of resources, like you said, and so like just being able to ask the questions. Like when I was younger, I would have never asked questions, and I would never said anything. But now I'm almost 47, and so I feel like questions are the way to go. So I am very she was explaining it. So I said, oh, some of this I had already been doing in my own practice, or when I do it on Facebook or whatever. And then I took some stuff from the 200 hour where Michelle was like, just let people know what you're doing. If you're going to be a Christian yoga instructor, let them know that. So when you're mentioning certain things, then they're not surprised.
Yes, absolutely. So preface the class.
Yeah. So I have completely embraced a lot of things because I went in knowing what I was going to do.
Good.
Now, how I got that across, I didn't know until I started doing things and just slowly incorporated things in and just listened. And
your vocabulary will expand. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah. And I have to keep remembering I'm just a beginner, right? I have to remember I'm just starting where other people have been doing it for years, and Anna's 20 years I got under my belt. You have 5 years, I think. I'm like 3 months.
Good. No, but again, this is welcome back is basically what I meant.
Yes.
Whether or not you believe in reincarnation, there's something there that there was something that's been put in your brain to be able to do this, right? That you can do that. And the thing is think of what I'm teaching is think of it more as a template. Does that make sense? Where you can then slide in and fit in what, you know what I mean, what you connect to. And you can use it in the same way. It's like, okay, I'm going to inhale that affirmation instead of a mantra, an affirmation or a psalm, and I'm going to hold it in and I'm going to chant it again in my mind. Like I'm going to reconnect to it. So there's just ways to do that. It's just a framework. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean it is, you know, oh, no, you don't do Sanskrit, no yoga for you. No. It's not like that at all.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted Mary to say something. She had her hand up for a while. So Mary, hello, darling.
Hi. I wanted to say that when I was a little kid, and that was a very long time ago, when we used to go to church, I was brought up Catholic, the masses were in Latin, and they weren't in English. I had no idea what they were saying, but there was a reverence in the space, and that's the essence of what I feel when there's chanting in the yoga space. So sometimes to put people's mind at ease, I kind of reference things that way, you know, that there was a reverence to the Latin language, even though I didn't know what I was saying. I knew that there was a positive, kind energy that was coming through at that time when I was a little kid. And I've always joked about being maybe a recovering Catholic at this point in my life. I'm much older. But I think when I joke about it that way, or when I say it that way, it does put some people's minds at ease because they're uncomfortable with chanting. They don't understand Sanskrit. And I thought one of the things about Sanskrit that was so emancipating was I didn't know what the words were either, but I knew that they were kind, and I knew that they were sacred utterances. And because they were, I just allowed them to come through. That's the way that I looked at it. But I also wanted to ask you, Anna, the chants that you do and the different postures, are they associated to them? Are they something that you come up with because we're in that particular chakra? And is there some sort of book that you can have these chants come through when you're doing certain postures? Because I love chanting and I love chants.
Okay. So when I put together these practices, it's because of obviously like it's either sort of the templates that I've learned when you do, you know, tantric chants and you do versus like Vedic mantra traditional. There are like things like that that are in the Vedas and whatnot. Mainly this is most of the stuff that just, you know, I learned through my teacher Gary and some with my other teacher Douglas. But I'll have to look up to see if there's any good books. Sometimes I get very frustrated with books because it's like, depending on like, you know, so everybody has an agenda. Does that make sense? Like, and like, but there is, you can find like, I'll put, you know, I'll definitely try to put together some things for the mantra stuff, like where it's like the reason why, like you can find the Brahma Gayatri, that will be, you can find that online. That's a universal mantra. So is the Rudra one, so is a Durga one, you know, the reason I put together, I used the Brahma ones because we're doing the Brahma Gayatri, right? The chord, that knot. But when I do stuff that's more with the goddesses, you know, I mean, I use the different Gayatris or the Bija mantras or the syllable, you know, these are ones that you can find that are universal. There's certain, definitely, there were specific mantras that were supposed to be secret mantras that you're supposed to, like, they were supposed to be initiated in, but now with the internet, I'm sure everybody can find them anyway. You know what I'm saying? Whether or not they say, oh, it has the power or not because it's not been initiated, who knows, right? Like the rishis didn't get initiated, they heard, right? So, I use I sort of connect them to what kind of energies we're doing, right? What we're working through. But definitely, it's a good question. And it's something that like, I've been trying to figure out, how do I teach that? Because it's like advanced sequencing, but on a whole other level, if that makes sense, because it's no longer in just asana, right? It's like, how do you like, and so a lot of that's the Vini yoga training, but then a lot of it's just my own, like, doing it, you know what I mean? And seeing what comes out. But, you know, definitely, Mary, email me, you know what I mean? We can definitely connect deeper with this for sure.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, well, it's almost 3:10, so we're gonna log off. We can come back tomorrow. If you have more questions, comments, please write them down so we can take care of them tomorrow. I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for sticking through this. I kind of feel like I should do the St. Crispin's Day speech of like, you know, us lucky few, like we seem to have like, so woohoo, you guys made it through. So just one more day. All right. Thank you all so very much. Again,
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Be kind to yourself. Again, nourish yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Can I think I got the Gayatri, so can I read it to you what I got to see if I'm saying it correctly really quick before we go?
Yeah.
Okay, so Parameshwaya ye vidmahi Paratadimahi Tano Brahma Prachodayate.
Ooh, very, very close, Angelic. Very close. Very close.
Oh, so it's not it?
Almost there's just little tweaks, but yes, you'll get that. We can talk about it tomorrow. That's awesome. Good job. And that's just by auditory. So excellent. Don't forget.
That's a little bit of, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Woohoo.